There's something deeply unsettling about the last message someone sends before they disappear. Because at the time it's written, it usually feels normal, casual, something that doesn't stand out at all. And that's exactly what makes it so disturbing later. Because when you look back at it, knowing what happened next, every word starts to feel different. Every detail feels like it meant more than it seemed. Like there was something hidden in plain sight that no one noticed in the moment. Most messages are simple, quick updates, small conversations that don't seem important. But sometimes, those messages are the last trace someone leaves behind. The final piece of communication before everything goes silent. And once that silence begins, those words are all that's left. Tonight, I'm going to share 3 stories about the last messages people sent before they disappeared. Moments where something ordinary turned into something deeply unsettling. And these aren't just random disappearances. These are the kind of cases where the final message doesn't just feel incomplete. It feels wrong. The first story comes from a college student who had been messaging his friend late one night. Nothing unusual, just a normal conversation about classes, plans, and random things that didn't seem important at the time. The messages were casual, relaxed, the kind of back and forth you don't think twice about. Until suddenly, the tone changed. It wasn't obvious at first, just a small shift. A slight delay between replies. A few shorter responses, something you could easily ignore. But then he sent a message that stood out just enough to make his friend pause. "Did you hear that?" At first, the friend didn't think much of it, assuming it was just something happening around him. Maybe noise in the dorm, something minor, so they replied casually, asking what he meant. A few seconds passed before the next message came through. "Someone's outside." The friend frowned slightly, reading it again, their attention sharpening just a little because the wording felt off. Not panicked, not urgent, but not normal either. Just uncertain. They asked if everything was okay, expecting a quick explanation, maybe a joke, maybe something simple. But instead, there was a pause. Longer than before. Then another message appeared. They're just standing there. At that point, the uneasiness started to build. The friend typed back quickly, asking who it was, telling him to check to look properly, but the response didn't come right away. The typing indicator appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Seconds stretched out longer than they should have. And when the next message finally came through, it didn't answer the question. "I don't think they're moving." A cold feeling settled in as the friend read it, their mind starting to shift from curiosity to concern. Because the messages weren't getting clearer, they were getting more vague, more unsettling. They told him to call someone, to not ignore it, to maybe even leave the room, but instead of responding directly, another message came in. "They're closer now." The friend's heart started to race slightly as they stared at the screen, the conversation no longer feeling normal at all. Their fingers moving quickly as they tried to type something, anything that could help. But before they could send it, another message appeared. "I didn't hear them move." At that point, the fear became real. They immediately tried calling him, but the call didn't go through. Straight to voicemail, they hung up and tried again. Same result. Meanwhile, another message came through, slower this time. They're right outside my door." The friend felt a wave of panic as they read it, their mind racing as they tried to think of what to do, telling him not to open it, to stay away, to call the police. But the messages kept coming before they could even finish typing. "I think they know I can see them." The typing stopped after that. No new message appeared for several seconds. The friends stared at the screen, waiting, their heart pounding, their thoughts spiraling as they tried calling again, but still nothing. And then, one final message came through. Short, simple, and completely different from the rest. "It's not outside anymore." The conversation ended there. No further messages, no calls, no explanation. By the time anyone checked on him, the room was empty. The second story comes from a woman who was texting her younger sister late one evening. Something they did almost every day. Casual conversations that didn't seem important at the time, but were part of their normal routine. Checking in, sharing small updates, nothing out of the ordinary. And that night started exactly the same way. The messages were light, relaxed, a few jokes, a few complaints about work, the kind of conversation that doesn't stand out in any way. Until suddenly, the replies started coming slower. At first, she didn't notice it much, assuming her sister had gotten distracted, maybe busy with something else. But then one message came through that felt slightly off. "Are you still awake?" She paused for a second before replying, a little confused, because they had been texting continuously just moments ago. But she answered anyway, saying yes, asking why. A few seconds passed before the next message appeared. "Don't reply right away." Her fingers hovered over the screen as she read that, her expression tightening slightly, because the request didn't make sense. It didn't fit the flow of the conversation at all. And for a moment, she just stared at it, unsure whether to respond or not. The typing indicator appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again, as if her sister was struggling to decide what to say. Then another message came through. "Just wait a few seconds between messages." At that point, a quiet sense of unease started to build, because the tone had changed completely. The casual conversation replaced by something slower, more deliberate. And she hesitated before responding, deciding to follow what was said, waiting a few seconds before typing back, asking what was going on. The reply came almost instantly after that. "Too fast." "Good." Her chest tightened slightly as she stared at the screen, because the response didn't match what she had just done. It felt like it had been sent before she even followed the instruction, like the timing didn't line up properly. She frowned, typing again, asking her sister if everything was okay. But before she could send the message, another one appeared. "If I reply too fast, it notices." Her breath caught slightly as she read that, her mind trying to process what it meant. Her fingers freezing over the keyboard as a cold feeling started to settle in. She didn't send her message immediately this time. She waited, counting silently. 1, 2, 3, and then she sent it. "What notices?" The typing indicator appeared again. Slower this time, more controlled. And then the reply came. "The thing using my phone." Her entire body went still as she read that, her heartbeat picking up, her thoughts racing as she tried to rationalize it, thinking it had to be a joke, something meant to scare her. But something about the pacing, the tone, the way the messages were being sent didn't feel like a joke at all. She quickly typed back, asking what she meant, telling her to stop messing around. But again, before she could send it, another message appeared. "Don't call me." Her fingers stopped instantly as she read that, her instinct to call her sister freezing in place as the uneasiness turned into something heavier. The next message came after a short delay. "It wants you to call." A wave of discomfort moved through her as she slowly lowered her phone slightly, her breathing becoming more controlled, more cautious, as if reacting too quickly might somehow make things worse. She waited again before replying, following the strange pattern that had been set, asking what was happening, asking where she was. The response came slowly. "In my room." Then another message. "Door closed." Then another. "But it's already inside?" Her chest tightened as fear settled in fully now, her mind struggling to find a logical explanation, her fingers shaking slightly as she typed, asking what she meant, telling her to leave, to get out, to do something. But the reply didn't come immediately. The typing indicator stayed there, longer this time, flickering, stopping, starting again. And then finally, a message appeared. "It knows I'm warning you." Her breath caught as she stared at the screen, her entire body tense, the silence stretching out after that message. No new typing indicator, no immediate reply, just the quiet glow of the phone screen in her hand. Seconds passed, then longer. And just as she was about to type again, a new message appeared, but this time, the tone was different. No hesitation, no delay. Sent instantly. "Why did you stop replying?" Her heart dropped instantly as she read it, because she hadn't stopped. She had been waiting, following the instructions. And yet, the message acted like something else was expecting her response. Another message came immediately after. "You're not following the rules." Her breathing became uneven as fear took over completely, her grip tightening on the phone as her mind raced, trying to understand what was happening when suddenly, her phone started ringing, an incoming call from her sister's number. She froze, staring at it, remembering the message. "Don't call me. It wants you to call." The phone kept ringing, the sound loud in the silence around her, her finger hovering near the screen, her instincts telling her not to answer, her fear telling her something was wrong no matter what she did. And then the call stopped. Immediately, the screen went still again. A new message appeared seconds later, short, simple, and completely final. "You answered, didn't you?" Her entire body went cold as she realized something she couldn't explain. She hadn't touched the phone. The third story comes from a man who had been messaging his girlfriend during a late-night drive. Nothing unusual, just small updates, letting her know when he would reach, sharing random thoughts to pass the time. And at first, everything about the conversation felt completely normal. The road was mostly empty, the night quiet, and the messages were spaced out naturally. Short replies between long stretches of driving, until at some point, something about the timing started to feel off. It wasn't obvious at first, just a small detail. A reply that came a little too quickly. A response that seemed to arrive before he had fully finished typing his message. Something that could easily be ignored as coincidence. But then it happened again. And again. His replies started appearing before he even hit send. At first, he thought it was just a glitch. Maybe a lag in the network, something causing messages to sync incorrectly. But the more it happened, the harder it became to ignore. He typed a message, paused for a second before sending it, and watched as a reply appeared on his screen. Before he pressed send, his grip tightened slightly on the steering wheel as he stared at the phone mounted beside him. His mind trying to process what he was seeing, telling himself it wasn't possible, that there had to be a delay, a technical issue, but the pattern continued. Every message he thought about sending was already being answered. His breathing became slower, more focused, as unease started to settle in. His attention shifting between the road and the phone. His thoughts racing as he tried to test it, to prove to himself it wasn't real. He started typing something different, something random, something he hadn't planned to send. And before he could finish, the reply appeared. Don't. His chest tightened instantly as he stared at that single word, his fingers freezing over the screen. Because this time, the message didn't match anything he had been typing before. It wasn't part of the conversation. It wasn't a response. It was a warning. He swallowed slightly, his heart beginning to beat faster as a cold feeling moved through him. His mind trying to rationalize it, thinking maybe she was just guessing. Maybe it was coincidence, but deep down, he knew that wasn't true. He slowly erased the message he had been typing, his eyes fixed on the screen, waiting, and for a few seconds, nothing happened. No reply, no movement, just silence. Then carefully he typed something simple. What do you mean? This time he pressed send immediately. The reply came almost instantly. You're not supposed to change it. His grip tightened again as confusion and fear mixed together. His thoughts becoming more scattered as he tried to understand what was happening. His attention slipping slightly from the road as he focused on the phone again. Another message appeared. Just keep driving. His chest rose and fell slowly as he read it, his mind catching on that one phrase, because he hadn't mentioned anything about driving. Not recently, not in that conversation, and yet the message acted like it already knew exactly what he was doing. He glanced up at the road ahead, the darkness stretching out endlessly, the headlights barely illuminating the path in front of him. And for a moment, he felt a strange sense of disconnection, like something wasn't lining up properly. He looked back at the phone. Another message appeared. Don't look at your phone for too long. His breath caught slightly as he read it, his eyes flicking up instinctively, his grip tightening on the wheel as he forced his attention back to the road, a growing sense of unease settling in deeper now. Something about this wasn't just wrong. It felt controlled, like whatever was sending those messages was aware of him in real time. Another message appeared. You're about to pass it. His heart started to race as he read that, his eyes scanning the road ahead, his mind trying to understand what it meant, his breathing becoming uneven as tension built in his chest. Don't slow down. The message came immediately after. His instincts reacted before his thoughts did, his foot pressing slightly harder on the accelerator as his eyes stayed locked on the road. Every muscle in his body tense now, waiting, anticipating something he didn't understand. And then he saw it on the side of the road. For just a split second, illuminated by his headlights. A car, crashed, twisted metal, debris scattered across the ground, and something else. A phone lying in the middle of the road. His breath caught as he passed it, his mind struggling to process what he had just seen. A wave of confusion and fear hitting him all at once, because something about that scene felt familiar in a way he couldn't explain. His phone vibrated again. Another message. That was you. His entire body went cold as those words sank in. His grip tightening painfully on the steering wheel as his heart pounded in his chest. His thoughts racing as panic started to take over. His mind trying to reject what he had just read, what he had just seen, but before he could even react, another message appeared. You're almost there. His breathing became shallow as dread settled in completely now. His eyes fixed on the road ahead, his entire body tense as he drove forward, unable to slow down, unable to stop, as if something had already decided what was going to happen next. And this one final message appeared. Don't look up. His eyes flicked toward the phone for just a second. And in that moment, the headlights in front of him suddenly filled his vision. And the most disturbing thing about the last messages people send before they disappear isn't just what those messages say. It's what they don't say. The gaps between the words, the sudden shifts in tone, the way something normal slowly turns into something that feels completely wrong, without any clear moment where it actually changes, because at the time, none of it stands out enough to feel urgent. None of it feels like the last thing someone would ever send. And that's exactly what makes it so unsettling when you look back at it later. In all of these stories, the fear doesn't come from a single moment. It builds quietly, message by message, detail by detail, until the realization hits that something wasn't right long before anyone noticed it. And by the time it becomes obvious, it's already too late. A presence that moves without being heard. Messages that arrive before they're written. Warnings that come from the same person who needs them. 3 different situations, but all pointing toward the same unsettling idea that sometimes communication doesn't just connect people. It reveals things that shouldn't be there at all. Because think about it. When you send a message, you assume it's simple. Just words moving from one person to another, something controlled, something predictable. But what if that isn't always true? What if sometimes something else can exist within that space? Something that sees the same messages, understands the same context, and responds in ways that feel just real enough to be believed. And maybe that's why these stories stay with you. Because they don't rely on something you can clearly see or avoid. They happen through something you use every day. Something you trust without thinking. Something that feels completely safe until it suddenly isn't. The scariest part isn't just that these people disappeared after sending those messages. It's that in every case, the last message wasn't random. It wasn't meaningless. It felt like a moment where something shifted, where something else became aware. And once that happens, there's no clear way to stop it. So the next time you're texting someone late at night, or you see a message that doesn't quite make sense, something slightly off, something that feels like it arrived too early, or says something it shouldn't know, don't ignore it too quickly. Don't assume it's just a glitch or a coincidence, because sometimes the last message isn't just the end of a conversation. It's the moment something else joins it, quietly, without being noticed, until it's already too late to question it at all.